What you're about to discover in this video will completely change your perception of global technological control. China has just pulled off a masterstroke that could well redistribute all the geopolitical cards, and the story you're about to uncover reveals how a simple navigation system has become the most formidable weapon of the 21st century. Last month, while the world was looking elsewhere, Iran made a decision that sent shockwaves through Washington, and this is just the beginning of a technological revolution whose consequences will astound you. During the 12-day lightning war between Israel and Iran, Tehran made a strategic choice that sent a resounding political message across the entire world. The Iranian government deactivated the American GPS throughout its territory to switch to the Chinese equivalent, the BeiDou system. This decision is not a simple technical change. It's a declaration of digital independence that marks a historic turning point in the global balance of power. What most people don't know is that GPS, the system we use daily to navigate, is actually controlled by the American military. This reality gives Washington colossal power over the global economy and security, because in case of conflict, this system can advantage American allies and completely paralyze their adversaries. When Iran cuts GPS to adopt Chinese technology, this gesture sends a clear warning to the entire world. We must never forget that there is now more than one superpower capable of inventing revolutionary cutting-edge technologies. For more than 30 years, China has been working discreetly to build a next-generation satellite system that now surpasses American GPS in many aspects. Today, its BeiDou network is fully operational in more than 140 countries, and this expansion marks a definitive break with Western technological hegemony. This transition is part of a broader global dynamic, that of a progressive disconnection from systems controlled by the United States. The freezing of $300 billion in Russian assets by Western powers had already sown doubt among many states holding dollar reserves. Today, it's the GPS weapon that provokes a similar awakening among nations seeking their strategic autonomy. As BRICS accelerate the search for alternatives to the dollar, China leads the transition to a new satellite era that reflects a profound geopolitical shift. If this technological revolution fascinates you as much as it does me, then subscribe now and activate the notification bell, because your support gives incredible strength to this channel to continue revealing these geopolitical secrets that traditional media never show you. Each subscription allows us to dig even deeper into these crucial strategic issues that shape our world. So join this community that refuses official versions and seeks the truth behind the technological manipulations of superpowers. GPS has now become an integral part of our daily lives. We use it to travel, of course, but this technology goes far beyond simple navigation. In reality, GPS is a technological privilege, and this privilege can be revoked at any time by the American military that entirely controls this system. Precision agriculture, maritime logistics, military operations, everything depends on global satellite positioning. Without this technology, there would be no large-scale harvesting, no secure port navigation, no targeted military strikes. Whoever controls this system holds a formidable geopolitical lever, and a simple voluntary malfunction could have catastrophic consequences on a global scale. China has understood this danger for a long time because for Beijing, this threat is not theoretical. It is dramatically real. In 1993, the United States receives an explosive report concerning the Chinese ship Yinhe, nicknamed the Milky Way. According to this report, the ship would be transporting chemical weapons destined for Iran, which pushes Washington to make a radical decision. The GPS signal of the ship is immediately jammed, and the Yinhe loses all navigation capability at sea. The United States also exerts military and diplomatic pressure on Gulf countries so they deny the ship access to their ports. Trapped at sea in the Indian Ocean, the ship remains blocked for 24 days under dramatic conditions. Finally, a joint inspection between the United States and Saudi Arabia concludes that the Yinhe was not transporting any chemical weapons. The ship is authorized to leave, but for Beijing, the damage is done, and the lesson is definitively learned. China accuses the United States of having harmed its legitimate maritime commerce, while Washington refuses any official apology. For China, this abuse of power constitutes a strategic electroshock that completely changes its vision of technological dependence. Beijing realizes that at any moment, its ships can be tracked, paralyzed, or isolated by simple decision from Washington. It's this humiliating event that pushes China to officially launch its own autonomous space program. This program will bear the name BeiDou in reference to the Big Dipper constellation, symbolizing navigation and orientation in Chinese culture. But China didn't content itself with creating a simple alternative to American GPS. It built a more powerful and advanced system. The BeiDou network relies on more than 50 satellites compared to only 31 for American GPS. Finalized in 2020, it relies on latest generation technology offering more stable, faster coverage that is much less prone to failures. Today, BeiDou already surpasses GPS in 165 countries, notably in Africa, Asia, and Latin America. While China deploys a navigation system of the future, the United States continues to rely on technology inherited from the Cold War. Major GPS updates are not expected until the mid-2030s. In terms of precision, the gap is widening even more between the two systems. BeiDou offers location accuracy to 1 or 2 meters for civilians versus 3 to 5 meters for aging American GPS. When coupled with Chinese ground positioning stations, BeiDou achieves decimeter or even centimeter precision. To this is added a revolutionary capability that GPS doesn't have, sending short messages. This function allows communication even in the most isolated areas during wartime or during natural disasters. With such technological advantages, it's not surprising to see more and more countries and companies abandon GPS to migrate to BeiDou. In 2024, the Chinese satellite navigation sector generated nearly $80 billion, representing 7.4% growth compared to the previous year. Today, BeiDou processes more than 1 billion location requests each day worldwide. For many geopolitical analysts, this transition marks much more than a simple technological change. It's a true act of independence from the West, a digital liberation that redefines global power relations. The most striking example occurred just a few weeks ago during the lightning war between Israel and Iran. During these 12 days of intense conflict, platforms like WhatsApp and Instagram leaked in real time the geographical positions of their users. Israel exploited this data to locate Iranian government officials, whether military or scientific, before targeting them with drone and missile strikes. The message sent to the entire world is absolutely chilling for all users of Western technologies. As long as you use American GPS, you literally carry a target on your back that your enemies can exploit. Iran is not the only one distancing itself from American surveillance systems. Last week, Spain created a surprise by announcing it had entrusted Huawei, the Chinese technological giant, with contracts for managing its intelligence services wiretapping. This decision immediately triggered a wave of criticism from Madrid's traditional allies. Many denounce a serious risk to the country's digital security and a betrayal of the Atlantic Alliance. But fundamentally, this decision reflects a strong geopolitical positioning that reveals new European priorities. The Spanish government states it trusts secure Chinese networks more than American systems, whose data inevitably ends up in CIA hands. Even America's most faithful ally is beginning to change tone regarding American technological hegemony. An article recently published in the Globe and Mail in Canada sends a strong geopolitical signal. The article calls for liberation from American influence and to strengthen ties with China. Just a few years ago, such a declaration would have been absolutely unthinkable in mainstream Canadian media. But the world is changing at breakneck speed, and for many countries, the interest of strategic autonomy from Washington is becoming increasingly evident. A striking example of this independence logic, the Great Chinese Firewall. By restricting access to Western technologies very early, Beijing was able to develop its own sovereign social networks and build a completely autonomous digital ecosystem. This strategic choice allowed China to protect itself from hostile media narratives from the West while generating enormous economic benefits. The emergence of national tech giants like Alibaba, Tencent, or ByteDance testifies to the success of this strategy. Europe, on the other hand, did not follow this path of independence and remains dangerously dependent on digital infrastructures dominated by American giants. The result is European digital sovereignty, largely in Washington's hands. Unlike the European Union, China has preserved its total technological independence. This strategy is part of a broader movement like BRICS initiatives, the new Silk Roads, or progressive de-dollarization. Chinese satellite technology primarily aims to serve the interests of the global south, in other words, the demographic majority of the world. Among the 165 countries where BeiDou surpasses GPS, most are located in Africa, Latin America, and Asia. While the West neglected these regions, China extended its hand and offered them what the West had never allowed them: the possibility of being equal partners in global technological development. In Africa, more than 30 countries have installed ground stations to support precision agriculture, water management, and meteorological services. The result is spectacular. Agricultural yields have exploded, and farmers are now better armed against the effects of climate change. In Latin America, strategic ports like Chanquay in Peru already integrate BeiDou into their intelligent navigation systems. In Asia and the Middle East, the Chinese satellite network strengthens transport and logistics in regions where American GPS coverage is deficient. The West's indifference to these regions left a geopolitical void that China hastily filled with efficiency. This is exactly what explains the lightning success of programs like the New Silk Roads. To date, more than 150 countries have officially joined. But beyond impressive figures, one fact marks minds worldwide: China's international reputation now exceeds that of the United States. According to a recent study conducted by the Alliance of Democracies, 79% of the global population now has a more favorable opinion of China than of the United States. This figure reveals a true shift in global perception of the two superpowers. In global South countries, citizens see the concrete results of Chinese cooperation. Roads, ports, networks, satellites, so many projects that China has actually delivered where the West promised without ever acting concretely. Meanwhile, America continues to rely on its traditional soft power. But this cultural influence is rapidly eroding, notably because of aggressive policies led by various American administrations. The global trade war triggered in recent years has permanently damaged America's image. Take the emblematic case of Iran. For decades, the country has been strangled by merciless American sanctions that excluded it from the global economic system. So when GPS was used as a geopolitical weapon against it, the decision to cut it was practically inevitable. Iran simply had nothing left to lose in defying American technological hegemony. With a powerful alternative now in its hands, Iran is no longer alone in considering breaking with the American system. This Iranian shift toward BeiDou didn't happen by chance. It all began with an explosive affair that shook the highest levels of Iran's military apparatus. According to state media, WhatsApp and Instagram allegedly transmitted in real time the location of high military officials directly to foreign powers. Among them, Israel and the United States, who allegedly exploited this geolocation data for targeted elimination operations. These applications, once connected to the internet, allegedly left behind a deadly digital trail, a sort of perfect Ariadne's thread to guide enemy drones and missiles to their human targets. Meta company led by Mark Zuckerberg has categorically denied these accusations. Officially, neither WhatsApp nor Instagram collects or shares precise geolocation data. End-to-end encryption is supposed to protect users against this type of exploitation. But for cybersecurity experts, the danger doesn't always come from message content but from revealing metadata, timestamps, message frequency, approximate coordinates. Even without reading conversations, a sophisticated spy software can exploit this data. This information allows reconstruction of a target's movements with formidable precision. And in an asymmetric warfare context, this kind of information is literally worth gold for intelligence services. Faced with this digital threat, Tehran's reaction was immediate and radical. The government launched a national appeal to all Iranian citizens. The 90 million Iranians were invited to delete WhatsApp and Instagram, now qualified as Western espionage tools. This wasn't simple advice, but a national security imperative. Several targeted assassinations of Iranian military officials were allegedly facilitated by leaks from these platforms. In parallel, internet access was severely restricted during periods of tension. During the recent military escalation, more than 97% of national connectivity was blocked. But Iran is not alone in distrusting these Western digital tools. Ironically, the United States House of Representatives itself recently banned WhatsApp use on official devices. In a confidential note, the American Bureau of Cybersecurity qualified WhatsApp as high risk for national security. This ban indirectly validates the concerns raised by Iran regarding these platforms' security. To understand why the shift to BeiDou carries such geopolitical weight, we must go back to GPS's military origins. Everything begins in 1957 when the Soviet Union launches Sputnik, the very first artificial satellite in history. American scientists discover they can track its trajectory thanks to the Doppler effect. This will be the starting point of a secret military project that will revolutionize modern warfare. In the 60s, the American Navy develops Transit, a satellite navigation system designed to guide its nuclear submarines. Then, in 1973, the United States Department of Defense officially launches the Navstar GPS program, a constellation of 24 satellites permanently controlled by ground stations capable of providing positioning and synchronization. But this system remains for exclusively military use until 1983. That year, a South Korean airliner, Flight Cal 007, is shot down after entering Soviet airspace. In response to this tragedy, President Ronald Reagan decides to open GPS to the civilian world. But with a crucial limitation, the signal is voluntarily degraded so that the American military remains the only one with total precision. We must wait until the year 2000 for GPS to reach a historic turning point. That year, President Bill Clinton ends the voluntary signal degradation. Now, civilians worldwide can access much higher precision. This change will revolutionize everything in our daily lives. It's what makes possible the smartphone explosion, the emergence of applications like Uber, and of course, precision agriculture. In just a few years, GPS invites itself into all aspects of our modern daily life. No more need for road maps or printed itineraries. GPS didn't just change warfare, it also saved many couples from navigation disputes. But behind this apparent convenience hides a much more strategic reality. Whether you're guiding a ship in the South China Sea or delivering a package to Karachi, you're using a system that the United States can cut at any moment. Today, GPS generates thousands of billions of dollars of economic activity worldwide. According to a study published in 2024, a single day of GPS interruption would cost $1.6 billion in the United States alone. This shows how much the global economy dangerously depends on this infrastructure controlled by Washington. GPS is now managed by the U.S. Space Force and is in its third generation known as GPS-3. This version offers more robust encryption and better resistance to jamming. But one fundamental thing hasn't changed: GPS remains an American military system. In case of major geopolitical conflict, access can be suspended at any time according to Washington's strategic interests. Once unchallenged in its role as global navigation system, GPS must now face increasingly serious competition. Chinese BeiDou, of course, but also Galileo for the European Union, GLONASS for Russia, and NAVIC, the Indian regional system. But in this global technological race, it's the rivalry with China that crystallizes the most strategic stakes. China didn't discover GPS's importance by chance. It was in 1991 during the Gulf War that it brutally becomes aware of it. This war constitutes a technological shock for Beijing's military strategists. The United States deploys for the first time on a large-scale satellite-guided airstrikes with absolutely unprecedented precision. Chinese military leaders then realize one terrifying thing: they are technologically behind. Worse still, they depend on an American system that Washington can cut at any time. But the definitive electroshock comes in 1996 during the Taiwan Strait crisis. That year, facing the island's pro-independence advances and its first democratic elections, Beijing fires several ballistic missiles near Taiwanese shores. The American response is immediate and massive. 2 carrier groups are sent to the area, an unambiguous warning: China must back down. But during this military face-off, the People's Liberation Army discovers a brutal reality. Its own forces are completely blind. They cannot track American ships or coordinate their maneuvers, while American forces benefit from complete vision thanks to GPS. It's following this strategic humiliation that Beijing makes a historic decision. In 1997, China gives its official green light to developing its own autonomous space program. The first milestone, BeiDou 1, is launched in 2000. It relies on only 3 satellites and covers a limited regional zone. But Beijing doesn't stop there in its technological development. In 2012, the program shifts into high gear with BeiDou 2. This version extends its coverage to the entire Asia-Pacific region. Then comes the real turning point with BeiDou 3, completed in 2020. With this revolutionary third generation, China definitively enters the big leagues. It now has a global system capable of rivaling, even surpassing GPS in certain geographical zones. More than 30 operational satellites ensure continuous worldwide coverage. Where China distinguishes itself even more is on an often ignored point: ground stations. The BeiDou network relies on ground mesh much denser than that of aging American GPS. These stations amplify signals, stabilize them, and above all, considerably improve positioning precision. Concretely, in many regions of Asia and Africa, BeiDou's civilian service reaches precision of about 1 meter. For comparison, in these same zones, GPS often caps between 3 and 5 meters. When coupled with Chinese ground positioning stations, BeiDou achieves decimeter or even centimeter precision. It also gives access to secure channels exclusively reserved for military use. But above all, BeiDou offers a revolutionary function that American GPS still doesn't provide: short messaging. This capability allows communication even in the most isolated areas during wartime or during natural disasters. In other words, BeiDou doesn't just indicate where you are, it also allows you to communicate when nothing else works. Today, more than 1.5 billion users worldwide rely daily on the BeiDou system. From smartphones to connected vehicles, from African logistics hubs to Pakistani farms, the Chinese network is establishing itself as the technological backbone of a new digital world order. This is no coincidence. BeiDou is intimately linked to another major strategic project from Beijing, the new Silk Roads Initiative. In this vast transcontinental infrastructure program, the Chinese navigation system plays a central role. It secures logistics corridors, optimizes commercial exchanges, and strengthens partner countries' connectivity. In Africa, more than 30 countries already use it for precision agriculture, with yields increasing by more than 15%. And in case of war, this network ensures China and its allies like Iran an autonomous strike capability independent of American GPS. While BeiDou multiplies technological advances, American GPS suffers from serious structural delay. According to U.S. Space Force's own documents, the current GPS constellation still largely relies on 1990s satellites. The United States has launched modernization with GPS-3 program supposed to strengthen precision and jamming resistance. But this new generation, initially planned for 2014, has taken years of delay and ultimately brings only moderate improvement. We go from a 3-meter error margin to about 1 meter, performance that remains inferior to that of the European Galileo system in certain zones. And for a true technological revolution, we'll have to wait for GPS 3F, a fully digital version. But this crucial update is not expected before mid-2030s. Clearly, the heart of the global navigation system still relies on aging technology while China advances at forced march. For Iran, adopting BeiDou doesn't stem from a simple technological choice. It's a strategic upgrade at a time when Western-dominated infrastructures are perceived as security threats, but also as geopolitical vulnerabilities. With BeiDou, Iranian drones, missiles, and defense systems can now operate based on encrypted coordinates, precise and protected against electronic jamming. And even in case of massive cyber attack, the short messaging function ensures communication continuity, even without mobile network. But benefits don't limit themselves to the battlefield. Iranian oil tankers, cargo ships, and commercial convoys can now navigate under BeiDou without going through American GPS. This considerably reduces their exposure to Western tracking and facilitates tactics like those of the Phantom Fleet. This strategy consists of deactivating transponders to escape radar of Western naval forces. In full economic war and under drastic sanctions, this logistics autonomy becomes vital for the country's economic survival. Behind this transition to BeiDou, it's an entire worldview that is completely redesigned. Iran doesn't just adopt a new navigation system, it discreetly breaks away from Western technological hegemony. It joins a digital ecosystem shaped by China and oriented toward technological sovereignty. Thanks to BeiDou, Tehran strengthens its ties with Eurasian corridors at the heart of China's new Silk Roads Initiative. It definitively turns its back on a digital order centered on the United States and explores an alternative based on sovereignty and resilience. In this new geopolitical era, power is no longer measured only in missiles or treaties, but also in lines of code and satellite signals. GPS was for decades the discrete tool of American soft power worldwide. Today, with BeiDou, China offers a rival model and for certain countries a true technological liberation. More and more countries are beginning to ask themselves the same fundamental question: what if defying the United States was no longer as risky as before technologically? The truth is that consequences of exclusion from the Western system are today much less heavy than formerly. Because the United States are no longer the main driver of global economic and technological growth. This role now belongs to China, and that's why many nations are beginning to trust it. They're convinced that its technological advance will shape the future and redefine the world order. This historic choice Spain has just made by betting on Chinese technology at the expense of that of the United States. A strong signal that could well mark the beginning of a new geopolitical era, where American technological hegemony will be nothing more than a memory of the past.